In September, 11 months after I ran my first ever 100-mile race, I placed second at Run Rabbit Run, a classic ultramarathon in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. My name is Tara, otherwise known as Candy Mama, and this is my YouTube channel, Tara Treks. I fell in love with running the 100-mile distance in October of 2021 at UARE 100, which was my first ever 100-miler. And since then, I have been quite aggressive with signing up and racing these races. And since then, I have done Blood Rock, I have done Umstead, Cruel Jewel, Run Rabbit Run, and just recently I did Devil Dog. But today I'm going to talk to you guys about Run Rabbit Run. Before we get into my race experience, I want to talk about my gear room here, give an update. It looks a lot better than the last video. I have finally moved some things in here. The carpet is fixed. I fixed some outlets that needed to be worked on. The gear is not organized yet, as you can see, but it is getting there. So I live at sea level, and I didn't know how I would perform at altitude. The race begins at 6,800 feet, and the highest it goes to is 10,500 feet. And I wanted to do everything in my power to prepare. I did 4 major things. The first thing I did, I trained at peak heat during the summer. The way I understand it is that when you're running during peak heat, it's less oxygen, same as being at altitude, it's less oxygen as well. So you're just kind of training your body to perform with less oxygen. I went to the sauna a lot. And then I arrived to Colorado 2 weeks before the race in order to fully acclimate. The last thing I did was research the heck out of the course, the aid stations, and the competition. If I wasn't going to perform well at altitude, I wanted to know exactly what to expect with every aspect of this race. The course is an out and back, and you climb nearly 20,400 feet and descend the same amount. Like I mentioned before, I also did a lot of research on the women I'd be competing against in the Hare Division, and I'll go over the differences between the hare and the tortoises in just a little bit. But in the Hare Division for women, I was going to be competing against some really talented women in the trail running scene. I was predicted by the race directors to finish 13th, so if that gives you any idea, that is a lot of women who are just very talented in this sport. Run Rabbit Run 100-miler is split into 2 groups. You have the tortoises and you have the hares. The main differences between these 2 groups is the competition level. So as a hare, you are competing for a large prize pot. You also start, I believe it's 4 hours after the tortoise division. I would be competing as a hare, and I'd be testing my luck to see how I do against some really competitive runners. It took me a little while to assemble a crew for this race. My dad and uncle would be there, but would be reserved for encouragement and hype. I did have my friend Reese, who lives in Durango, Colorado, who was willing to come out and help crew me for this race, which was very nice because I trust her as a longtime friend. In July, while Jonathan and I were on the John Muir Trail, we met a couple there named Magpie and Tingers. They are newly graduates of college, and they live in their 1987 Winnebago van named Winnie. They were traveling around the country, so I asked them if they would be interested in crewing me, if they'd be in the area, and they were. A lot of videos you're going to be seeing in this video is from Magpie, who has TikTok and a new YouTube channel. If you like adventurous content and cool people, I recommend you subscribe to them. I will put their channel name like somewhere down here or in the description below. So please subscribe to them and show them some love. They are so cool, and I just appreciate them so much. So after all of my training, all of the planning, race day was finally here, so my crew and I made our way to the start line. So you start at the base of Mount Werner, like I said, and you literally climb to the top of that mountain. So that's 4,000 feet in 5.5 miles. And you might think like, oh my gosh, that sounds terrible, but I was just really excited. Nearly 2.5 miles in. Almost out. Almost up Mount Werner. Good job, Rachel. Once at the top, single track trail weaves you through Route National Forest, around the beautiful aspens and huge lodgepole pines.
finally made it past Mount Winter. That was a doozy. Now, I'm currently behind Maggie and Annie. Pretty cool. Thinking about slowing up a bit and just kind of chilling behind them for a while.
So at this point, it's about 14 to 16 miles into the race, and we're descending to Fish Creek Falls, which is a very popular hike. And this is a very technical and rocky terrain. At this point, rain and hail just appeared straight out of nowhere. I guess that's a Colorado thing. I'm from the East Coast, so I don't know. But luckily, I had my Houdini jacket by Patagonia. I have talked about this thing in length. This jacket has literally saved my life like 3 times. It is amazing. Everyone should have one. I talk about it in a video I'm going to link above. You should watch it. I put that thing on and it was all good to go. Once at the bottom, I was able to see my crew for the first time, and they were able to replenish my pack with all my snacks. And then it was back up the way I came, so 3,000 feet. So Annie started to pull away at this point once we hit the Fish Creek Falls aid station and started climbing back up. So I was really trying to conserve energy and go a little slower. I wanted to be able to finish the last 30 miles of the race well. At this point, the single track trail turns into a easily traversable Forest Service road as you make your way to Summit Lake aid station. Large clouds started to roll in, and I heard some really intense thunder and saw some pretty scary lightning, and I was pretty exposed. And if you know anything about Colorado, you know that they have pretty dangerous thunderstorms that can kind of just roll in real quickly. And if you know me, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I have a history with thunderstorms. All I could do was continue on, and by the time I got to Summit Lake, it had dissipated pretty much. We're about 20 miles into the race at this point, maybe a little more than that. I had my drop bag. I put on a bright green shirt I got from Goodwill a couple days before, these orange glasses that kind of protected my eyes, and then I threw on a trash bag that was supposed to keep some heat in because the night was coming. And just looking back, I looked completely ridiculous.
Oh, I looked so lame. Oh my gosh. Oh, jeez. No. No. Tara. Oh, gosh. Oh, gosh. Just past Summit Lake, and I look bad. Oh my gosh, I can't believe how I look. I look so freaking dumb. Walking now, thinking like 7th woman or something. It's just a matter. I'm just chilling, honestly. The altitude is getting to me. I am on pace. Just chilling though. I'm at mile 32, apparently.
You continue on some single track trail and hit Billy Rabbit's aid station. I just blew past that, go down this single track like a bunch of switchbacks, and before I went down the switchbacks, I just saw the most beautiful sunset. I felt so much appreciation, so much gratitude for being in Colorado at that moment among people who love doing what I love doing. We're out there on the trails. People who live in Colorado are truly blessed. But that appreciation was quickly overshadowed by the realization that the food I was using was not working for me. I was eating spring gels, which have worked really well for me in the past. But when I'm nervous, it's a little tougher for me to eat anything. I had to come to terms with the fact that like what I had packed, the only thing, Spring Energy was the only thing I packed, that was not working for me. So the trail is 2,000 feet down. It's littered with switchbacks and it's easy, hard-packed trail. As I was nearing Dry Lake Aid Station, which, you know, there's so many people there at all these aid stations. I will say this side rant. There's so many people at these aid stations. They're all just so positive, excited, cheering for you. I was like taken a little back and I was like, what's going on? There's so many people here. So excited. So when I got to Dry Lake aid station, I noticed a couple of other ladies, Hare ladies, that were catching up to me. It was Rachel, Mary, I think it's Lida, and then Casey were all Hares who were catching up to me. And this was the second time I was able to see my crew, and they packed me full of some foods. I told them my issues with the spring energy. So I joined Celinda and Mary down Spring Creek Trail, which was an easy grade downhill. All three of us managed to fall at different points going down, and it was very hard, like very hard fall. I just laughed at the ridiculousness of the scene, being like three bloody women just like absolutely stoked for this 100-mile race in the complete darkness, just like sprinting down this hill, just, you know, like I said, bloody and excited. So I really appreciated like the sportsmanship, and both of them were really friendly. We had a really good conversation, and it was really nice to talk with all these ladies at this race. I had a great time. Spring Creek Trail kind of enters into the downtown area of Steamboat Springs, and Tingers was able to pace me for this 1.5 mile section through town. They do that because they would just want you to be safe going through that area. So he was able to pace me going through town, and I told him in more depth about the troubles I was having consuming my gels, and he said he would figure something else out. I got to Olympian Hall aid station with Tingers, and that's kind of like the main area for the race, where a lot of, you know, the award ceremony is done, where the pre-race briefing is done, and you go through this aid station twice. So this was the first time I was going through. After Olympian Hall, you go up Howelson Hill for about 20-something miles. You start out by doing a pretty intense climb up to the very top, and then you kind of zigzag around the mountain, and it's beautiful trails. The grade hiking up on this Forest Service road to the very top is pretty tough. This was probably the lowest point in the race for me. I was really dealing with the consequences of not eating, and also just feeling really sick to my stomach. So my intent was to eat little bits of the gel, not just eat, you know, squeeze it all in my mouth. But I think I got too ambitious and just kind of ate too much, and I threw up everything. At one point, it was just water coming out. I was sitting about 4th for the Hares in the women division, and I was feeling discouraged, and I was just thinking like at any point all these women would just pass me. Another part of me though didn't really care, because I felt like trash. I got some solid foods at Lena Payne aid station, but again, no dice, threw all of that up as well. At one point, I got so angry at my body, and I just said, hey, that's fine, I won't eat. So I didn't.
Hey y'all. So I've been up on Emerald Mountain for the past 3 hours probably, but like it's not working out. Like my food is not working out. I'm throwing up and can't keep anything down, but I've come to terms with that, and I'm gonna finish no matter what. I know that I'll probably come in not my favorite place, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna finish. I mean, I only have 40 miles left, so if I just try to eat what I can, it'll work.
All right, we're waiting for Tara to come back down the mountain.
It's past midnight.
Yeah, it's past midnight. It's cold. We're hungry. We're tired.
But Tara is hungrier, colder, and tireder.
Yeah. Woo, go Tara! Tara's yummy snacks that we're gonna give to her.
By the time I got back to Olympian Hall, my crew and pacer said I didn't look good at all. Tingers paced me back to Spring Creek Trail, and he said I was talking like I was drunk. Luckily, he did have some solid foods. We walked all the way back, actually, and he had some solid foods. I was able to eat ramen and easily digestible things. Thank goodness for that, because once I got to Spring Creek Trailhead, I felt like a new person. I started running up Spring Creek Trail. Shortly after that, Mary caught up to me, and she was looking so strong running up this hill, so I just let her go and let her do her thing. I was 4th behind Annie, Rachel, and Mary. I saw my crew one last time at Dry Lake, but I knew at this point I had to kick it into gear. I only had 30 miles to go, and I knew this was the time to really kick it into gear. My coach always says the last part of the race is really when it begins. The first half, you're just trying to get through it, just trying to get through those miles. Again, I was worried about my calorie intake, but I thought, you know, that is something for future Tara to worry about. Maybe not the best thing, but in those times, you can't really do anything until it gets to the point where action needs to be had. I would try to eat where I could, and if I couldn't, then that's fine. After Dry Lake is a crazy 1,800 foot climb, and it's on like very technical terrain. First you have like some easy single track. At one point it just turns into like hand over hand bouldering, and it's just a lot of large rocks and boulders you have to climb over. It made it difficult to keep any sort of pace. As I climbed too, the temperature began to drop and rain began to fall again. Before I even got cold, I got out my trash bag and my Houdini and gloves and a hat. I mean, even with all those things, I was getting really cold and I was shivering, still not eating too much. And I was worried I was shivering all of my calories away. At Billy's aid station, after completing that crazy hike up, we were about at 10,500 feet, I believe, and everyone was crowded around the little tent and the fire they had going. It was really tempting to stay there at that fire and warm up, so I was so cold. I knew I just had to keep progressing the race and keep moving. Before I left though, I got an emergency blanket that they were passing out and crafted a little cape. I wish I got a picture of this. You know, I had my trash bag and I had my cape on. Shortly after that, the sun started to rise and I saw Casey behind me, who was the 5th place person at that point. We're at Summit Lake aid station. I only had 20 miles to go and I knew like this was go time. Even though I really wanted to walk, I knew I had to run no matter the pace I was running at. So in my head, I have this motto that goes tippy taps. It's very simple, but essentially it's like if you can do little tippy taps, which in my head is just like, you know, just do a little jog. I mean, that's gonna be way better than a slow walk. Because I hadn't been eating much for the last 30 miles, I think. Because of that, I was starting to get like delirious. My brain was really foggy. At one point I passed Rachel, who was the 2nd place person after Annie. Unfortunately, I had gotten hypothermia before Summit Lake due to that, the rain that had come, and I didn't recognize her. I didn't recognize her because I was a little foggy. I was 3rd behind Mary and Annie and was approaching the top of Mount Warner. Once at the top there, it was 6 miles and that 3,500 feet descent. I knew what my body could do at the end of 100-mile races, and I knew it could take a lot of impact. So I decided to really lengthen out my stride for that last 6 miles and try to make up a lot of time. Mary was about 10 minutes ahead of me once I got to the top of Mount Warner. I ran down because 1, I wanted to create distance from the people behind me, and I also wanted to catch possibly those ahead of me. Not too long after that, I saw Mary with some of her pacers running down the mountain, and I overtook her in the last like 3 to 4 miles, and at that point I was 2nd in the race. But I did like lay off the gas a little bit. I was a little nervous to go that fast and to, you know, something happened. But Tingers found me on the mountain on the last like 3 to 4 miles. And he's like, Tara, do you want me to run with you? And I was like, yeah. And we just started like sprinting down this mountain. It was so much fun. And he clocked me in at like 7:30 8-minute miles. I was just asking him every like quarter mile, like, how far are we? How far are we from the finish? I'm so tired. I saw the finish line, I heard the music, I heard the people, and I sprinted into that finish and just began to cry. I've never cried after a race, but there's just so much relief and absolute joy to have been done, and I was completely surprised at my 2nd place finish. I did not expect that. When I was on Hallison Hill, I thought, this is it, my race isn't gonna happen, and I thought like all I want to do is finish this race. And the fact that I came in 2nd for women was crazy.
Come on, Tara! Let's go! Let's go! Yeah, Tara! Let's go! Let's go, Tara.
Here at the finish, I didn't record the second half. I finished second and sprinted 4 miles down a mountain.
Woohoo! Yeah! Tara getting her juices flowing. Say hi! Woo!
The goal of this race was to finish strong. I told you guys before, but I hate getting passed because I go out too fast in the beginning. I really tried to conserve my energy in order to give everything I got in that last push. And I felt like I worked so hard and I persisted. I was very, very happy, very proud of myself. I was also very thankful for my crew, my dad and my uncle who were my hype men, Reese who just showed so much care and she just knows me really well. And then Magpie for, you know, filming all that she did and supporting me, and then Tingers for pacing me through those sections and listening to me just talk nonsense during that portion through the town. I couldn't have done this without them, so I was just so thankful for my crew, and personally I just want to say thank you to you guys. If you're watching, thank you so much for your help.
Second place, getting $8,500. You're at 23:08, so just 2 minutes ahead. There's finisher, coached by Carl. Yeah. And from North Carolina.
Now that I have told my story of my race experience, I want to give a little review of the course, the race directors, volunteers, and the overall community. First off, the race directors, Fred and Paul, are very thorough with information on the website. They respond extremely quick to emails and hold fun, in-depth race briefings at Olympian Hall the night before. They are extremely organized and have a group of dedicated volunteers. So many volunteers come out and help for this race. I haven't mentioned this before, but Run Rabbit Run is a charity race, and since they started in 2012, they have donated over $300,000. Now to talk about the course, it is really well marked, like I mentioned before, and extremely fun to explore. Kind of wish I wasn't so delirious so I could enjoy the awesomeness of the trail I was running on. So the biggest thing that I learned during this race is that the weather and the temperature is unpredictable. During September in this area, the days are warm, so I recommend people to make sure they're getting their salt in. That completely changes and it gets really, really cold. So I always recommend carrying some sort of layer with you. Any type of weather could come, hail and rain and thunderstorms. So being prepared with safety critical equipment like layers, salt tabs, rain jacket is very critical to your safety, but also to the success of your race. I think this race is good for anyone who wants to explore the diversity of Colorado and be a part of a positive community event. All right, y'all, that was my experience of Run Rabbit Run 100 miler. This was an extremely fun event in a beautiful part of the country. If you are someone who is thinking about running in Run Rabbit Run and have some questions, please don't hesitate to comment below. Be happy to answer any of those. If you did enjoy this video, please like, comment, subscribe, and turn on those bell notifications. It only takes a click on y'all's end to help and encourage creators like me. As always, thank you for the support. If you did watch the end, please comment a bunny emoji. That lets me know that you watched the end, and I will say hello in the comments. All right, y'all, that is it from me for right now. I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.